Welcome to Your Business, My Business. A show dedicated to showcasing small and medium businesses in Nigeria and beyond. Let's help you grow your entrepreneurship journey.
Culture is more than tradition. It is identity and heritage. But can this become a thriving business? Our guest today will tell us if it can or cannot, or can prove if it can. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Your Business, My Business. I remain your one and only Faith Oyewole. And today we have a creative with us this afternoon. Someone who is in the industry that has made, my eyes, I fed my eyes so much that I cannot even, I don't need to sleep anymore. We're glad to see you. We're glad to have you on this episode, Mr. Tunde Owolabi. Am I correct?
Yes, you are. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to this particular episode of Your Business, My Business. We're glad to have you. But for viewers out there who actually do not really know you and would like to know you more, how would you introduce yourself?
Okay. Good morning again. My name is Tunde Owolabi. I introduce myself as an artist, as a creative, basically, because I'm not boxed in one aspect of creativity. So yeah, my name is Tunde Owolabi and I'm an artist.
I like the fact that it's actually very short. The introduction is very short, but I can boldly tell you that though it is short, what he is doing. Let's not start from there. Well, let's go straight to what we have today. Mr. Owolabi, once again, we're glad to have you on Your Business, My Business on RapidTV. But we would like to start up with this particular question. What actually inspired you to build this kind of business, starting from Ethnik to you're into sculpting and
So as I mentioned, I'm an artist, and that's the first thing, and being an artist just gives me the liberty to express my creativity in different ways. So I studied art, which is where the whole sculpting and painting come from, and I'm also applying that artistic endeavor into design, which is where Ethnik Africa came from. So what inspired me? Well, like you said, culture, my environment, observing things around me, learning about my heritage, learning about the different culture in Nigeria and in Africa in general. And I believe that we still have a lot of stories to tell, coming out of the African continent that has not really been told. And you know what they say about when the hunter is glorified because the lion is dead. We don't need any other person to come from outside to tell our stories. We need to tell our stories to the world the way those stories should be told. And that's what I'm trying to do, basically.
And looking at your work, I can boldly say that you're a good storyteller, because I know storytelling is not until you open your mouth to say story time. But looking at your work, I know that for each work that comes out of your creativity, a story is being told. But then again, I believe even though something inspired you, it's like gotten to a point that there was something that convinced you that this could actually be a business.
Well, truly, yes. Because, like I said, there's a lot of stories that needs to be told. And how do you tell those stories as a creative person? If you're a filmmaker, you tell those stories, make it into a movie. You sell cinema tickets or you sell, streams and things like that. In my own case, I've decided to use my sculpture, my painting, my design, most especially textile, telling my stories through the ashoke fabric and other African fabrics that are woven. And to think about it as a business, just like I mentioned, the movies, you want the world to know about, our culture because they do the same thing. And in fact, there's so much appropriation going on in the world where they take inspiration from us and sell it back to us. So why can't we do the same? Why can't we make a business out of our heritage and sell it to the, to the world as a product? And that's basically what I'm trying to do.
That's wonderful, sir. Talking about textile, you mentioned when you were talking that you use woven textiles, but I noticed something. Pardon me, I've gone through your works a lot, and I noticed that the kind of textile you use, the design, it's not the normal one we see in a Paja market or Oshodi market. It's kind of different. It tells like, should I say olden days design? But then it comes out unique. It's something that you cannot just find anywhere. What gave you that inspiration to just focus on that kind of textile?
Okay, so first off, I use Ashoke a lot.
Yes.
And Ashoke, from what it used to be then, isn't what it is now.
Yes.
There's a lot of, modernism that has gone into how Ashoke is seen. And, but the old technique of weaving Ashoke, is gradually changing. It's changed a lot with time, also because of colonization and modernization. There's a lot of Western influx, Western influence, Western fabric coming into Africa in exchange for what we have, But when I started the brand, I bought fabric off the shelf, But I said to myself, if I'm a creative person, I need to find a niche. I need to create my own. I need to find a way to create my own fabric in such a way that people look at it and they can easily recognize that, oh, this is this brand. And that's where the whole idea of, going back to how this was done and recreating it in my own way, putting a modern twist to it. Because a long time ago, if I say maybe about 20, 30 years ago, when you mention Ashoke to young people, they'll look at you like, nah, this is local, But now every young person wants to identify with, and that's the power of a creative person, because as artists, we tell stories and we are able to reinvent some of those stories through eras, and that's part of what I've been able to do with my own product, making Ashoke sort of cool again, for young people to want to wear it without thinking about it being, that local fabric.
Yeah.
If Ashoke was made in Europe, nobody's going to say it's not cool. It's the same way we wear denim. Some people say it's heavy, and I'm thinking you're wearing jeans. Ashoke is not as heavy as jeans. It's not as heavy as denim. So, but how do we then make it appealing to these people? And that's what I'm trying to do with my own.
Talking about how young people do not really, should I use the word appreciate our culture? And not now, but I feel like like you mentioned a few years ago, that it was a bit somehow. So now talking about the early stage when you started, what are those challenges that you faced, considering the fact that you were focused on culture, tradition, woven materials when it comes to like our Nigeria? What kind of challenges did you face at the moment?
The first challenge is being able to convince people that made in Nigeria is not inferior. That's one of the first challenges you face, because people look at, oh, it's made in Nigeria, they just shrug away and they don't care for how beautiful it looks. Because the first thing that comes to mind is it well made? So those are some of the barriers that you have to find a way to cross, making sure that they're well made. Because if they're well made, then people want it.
Yeah.
But if they're not properly made, that stigma is still going to be there that, oh, it's made in Nigeria. That's why it's not properly made. Then access to materials. As much as we want to provide jobs, you want to produce here, you want to manufacture here, we don't have everything. And sadly, we grow rubber, but we can't make rubber soles. We grow cotton, but we don't have threads to weave, so we still need to import. We're so reliant on importation. So that's why there is a lot of strain on foreign exchange, and then you're having to buy dollar to buy something from China. You want to buy something from China, you have first of all changing money to dollar before you can go and buy something with yuan or whatever other currency that you want to buy from. So access to material, access to technical abilities as well. We have a lot of good artisans here. but there's still a gap there in terms of their technical ability, and also how well people receive the idea of making something and making it well. You know, we still need a lot of education when it comes to that, because some people still have that notion that it's okay now, manage it. I can't manage. It has to be properly done, because I know the kind of products that I'm pitching my products against. So if I'm looking at something from a Western brand and it's properly made, and I'm buying it because it's not just beautiful, it is properly made, it's durable, and I want to do the same, I need to be able to give people that same kind of quality or even better. So anybody who's going to work with me needs to understand that this is the standard. If we're not getting that standard, then let's not bother. So those are some of the challenges, you know, people, material, access to funds, you know, you're basically bootstrapping. You know, whatever money you make from other things, you put it back into the business. You know, I mean, thankfully there's some schemes, there's some opportunities now where people are able to get fundings and stuff, but it's still a lot of challenge, you know. So you're basically just bootstrapping, doing it all by yourself, hoping that one day
to get better.
It'll get better, you know. So
it's actually wonderful that the business has grown to this stage despite the challenges so far. Talking about business, let's ask a particular question from the business sector, like angle of what you do. You've mentioned a lot of challenges, but I would like to ask, what systems did you put in place? What strategies did you put in place to make sure that these challenges were conquered and it enabled the growth of your business?
Wow. That was something I had to learn over the years, but I'm still learning it and I'm still trying to put those systems in place. Interestingly, I had to have my own factory, however little it is, because I realized that it wasn't ideal for me to outsource some of these things. And the reason is because I want to be able to monitor how my product is produced.
The quality.
The quality, you know, what goes out here has to be 100%, you know, if not 100, at least about 90%, you know. So I had to like bring my own people in. I had to accommodate them, you know, provide accommodation. And imagine providing accommodation in Lagos. That's a lot. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that I've had to, you know, make sure that I have consistent staff. Even that wasn't easy because, you know, sometimes the fact that you're housing people doesn't mean they'll turn up at work every day.
True.
Some people will come to work late and tell you, oh, I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. You know, so there are those challenges. We're still managing it. We're not at that stage of the Chinese where you can walk into a factory, give them your design, give them the materials that they're going to use, and they tell you their MOQ, they produce, you take it back to your store and sell. We're hoping we can get to that. I know there are a couple of places springing up in Lagos for you know, cloth making and all.
Yeah.
But in terms of leather work, it's still not as viable. So right now, what we do is we're just winging it, to be honest, you know, just trying to like find solutions that work at a particular time just to keep our heads above water. But the long-term solution would have been to have a proper manufacturing sector aided by the government, aided by policies. You know, if we had policies that gave access to, say, you can buy leather from tanneries in the north, and you're not bothered about how much MOQ you have to, you know, you have to be able to afford, because you're small businesses. If a tannery says you have to buy this color in 1,000 square foot and you cannot afford 1,000 square foot, how do you survive? You know? So there has to be certain policies that are meant to support local businesses, you know, with materials, with access to training for artisans. And, you know, sometimes it's not even about the training for people. You can provide training. I mean, I've provided training in the past, you know, and then try to absorb those people into my facility. But first off, we need to change the orientation of our people, you know, towards work, because people just have the notion that, you know what, let me just get by, you know.
Just make money.
Let me just make money. And it's not that easy. People need to understand that for you to be able to earn, you have to work. And you have to have a good attitude towards that work. If this is what is bringing food to the table for you, then you need to do it diligently. But a lot of, not just young people, but even some people that are older, their attitude to work is appalling. So that's a major challenge. And I think it's also a societal problem that we're facing now, because everybody wants a quick rich scheme. How do I get rich quickly?
Get rich.
How do I own a Range Rover without having to work for more than a week? And it's really affecting even the young people, because they are not, growing up, you would see carpenters who are diligent with what they do. They want to plane the wood, they want to sandpaper, they want to make sure that it's well done. These days, you call a carpenter, they're looking for the easy, quick board, materials that are not really sustainable.
Yeah.
So those problems have to come from above and below. Above, from the governmental side of things, with policies and grants and, helping the businesses. And from below, the citizens themselves, sensitizations towards the mindset, changing their mindset and how they actually receive their work. And I think things will get better. China didn't get to where they are today.
Yeah.
They had to do a lot of systemic change as well as infrastructural changes. So I'm hoping Nigeria can get there.
Amen. So talking about the government, do you think that, or should I say, can you help mention some kind of things that you think the government can do that can actually, you mentioned that there's some things that are missing, but I want you to be specific, what they can actually do. Because I remember last year or 2 years, about the leather factory in Lagos here. I don't know if it's still in operation or not. But then again, I see that some entrepreneurs that are just coming up still have complaints, even the ones that are passionate about what they want to do. So what do you think the government can actually put in place? What specific things that they can put in place that can help entrepreneurs that are coming up to help them at least attain what they need to attain in their business?
There's so many things the government can do. Like I said, policies. There's so many policies that can be put in place to help entrepreneurs, small businesses, helping them put their businesses together. I know they started talking about taxes, but yeah, if you're talking about taxes, it's okay to tax people. But what are the policies in place to help these businesses grow first before you even start thinking about taxes?
Taxes.
Yeah, everybody needs to pay tax. I don't have a problem with taxation and all that, but policies on how materials are gotten, because for instance, at a point in time, you want to buy something from China, you need to go to Bureau de Change. Yes, I think it's easing out now. You can use your card, but at that time, it wasn't easy to even say you want to buy something using your card. The moment you put a Nigerian card on there, they just reject it. Yeah. So all those hindrances are there. They need those. If the environment is suitable for business, it'll be easy for a young person to say, oh, you know what, I want to start this small business. I know the governmental policies are going to help me. I know I don't have to worry about how to source materials. I know I don't have to worry about how to register my business. How easy is it to register a business? How easy is it to open a bank account? How easy is it to maybe get a governmental support, to open my business? Is it in terms of grants? Is it in terms of loan? People talk about Bank of Industry or, whatever it is. I've heard so many people talk about how difficult it is to get loans from Bank of Industry, because you would hear things like, oh, you need to know somebody to be able to access these loans, or you submit your application for loans and you're probably under the pecking order, and then you have to go and sort somebody to help you get your files up before you can even be seen. And all these things should be on merit, not on man no man as we do here. When things begin to be done on merit, and that you have this ability to do this thing, and you don't have to know one allergy or one chief for you to be able to access what you need for your business to grow, then it will be easy for people to get out there and say they want to run a business and be successful in what they're running. But if everything still has to go through, I know this person or I don't know that person, then We're not ready.
We are not ready. Did you hear that? I pray that Nigeria gets better, though it's something we pray every day. We pray that the prayer will get answered very soon.
Nigeria doesn't need prayers. Nigeria
Action.
really
It needs
doesn't need
action.
prayer. Nigeria needs action. You know, China didn't get there by praying. China got there by putting boots to ground.
You know, sometimes you see some people take actions at first and then get tired because results are not really coming forth.
That's why people need to look at Singapore. A leader got there and he turned things around. Singapore is like a place where everybody wants to go to now. You know, it's like the talk of the Asian continent. That, you know, Singapore is doing well. Singapore has really turned things around for themselves. Same goes for Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. You know, they have the same oil we have. Or look at the infrastructures they have. Look at all the things that they have. So they don't need prayers. Nigeria doesn't need prayer. We have everything under our soil here.
We just need to take.
We just need to, and we have people, over 200 million people. Come on, how difficult can it? If I go out, if I put a poster out there and say I need, you know, people who can work with leather or people who can make shoes or who can make bags, I will hardly find 10 people. What am I saying? I'll hardly find 5 people.
They can do it very well.
Who would even apply?
Ooh.
First off, because I don't know if people are really ready to work. But then you find people on the streets who are begging, oh, please buy me food and that. For how long are we going to do that? The work is there to be done. But are people ready to do the work? That's the question that is begging to be answered now.
So talking about people being ready to do the work, do you think that there are some opportunities that are in Africa that a lot of entrepreneurs are actually overlooking?
You know, I was saying to my assistant yesterday about, I love woodwork, you know, furniture making and all those things. And I was saying to him that we have a big gap in that. And the gap is the fact that a lot of carpenters now don't even want to work with proper wood. They just want to put all these boards together and, you know, just stack them up for you. But when you find people who want to do proper woodwork, you know, proper carpentry, people will pay premium for it.
Yes.
But do we have the tools? Number one. Do we have the machineries? Do we actually even have the people who are willing
to do it?
A lot of the carpenters now. I've had a situation where I was working on a shelf, and I said to the guy working on it, I said, this thing isn't smooth enough. We still need to sandpaper it. You know, we need to sandpaper it to the point where you can see the grains of the wood and you can decide to just polish it and leave it in natural color, or you can stain it and it's still beautiful. Wood is beautiful, you know. You don't need to do much. Just give it proper finishing. The next day I came back, the guy had down tools. He left. He packed his things and left.
Wow.
Because he wasn't willing to do that much hard work. So how do you explain that?
Wow. It's funny how we can make Nigeria better, but I think, should I call it laziness?
That's why I said people are not ready. We're not ready. And you can't do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
So you need people.
So let me ask you a particular question before I ask you the last question for this interview. Now, personally, if you met, let's say I am an entrepreneur, coming up entrepreneur that wants to go into the same line of business like you do, what would you say to me? What would you tell me as senior in the line?
I'll say go and learn about our business you want to do very well. You know, you need to be very knowledgeable about what you want to get into, so that when you employ people to work with you, they don't think you don't know what you're saying. I've had the experience. You know, I had to go and learn about leather, about fabric, you know, all these things. I remember when I wanted to start and I said I wanted to make sneakers, and somebody said to me, you can't make sneakers in Nigeria. We don't have the machines. And I know I've seen countless videos on YouTube. So whatever it is I want to do, there's really nothing new. So many people have done it before us. They may not do it the way you want to do it.
Yes.
You know, but there's really nothing new under the sun. So you're just finding a new way or your own way to do it differently from how they've done it. But there's really nothing new. So the guy said to me, oh, you can't make sneakers here. You need these machines, heavy machines and this. And I remember saying to him that, but I've seen videos of people actually hand making some of these shoes. Yes, I know some parts of it will need machines, but those machines are not the heavy machines that you're talking about. If I listened to that person, I probably won't be here today.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to go and find that. Make sure that you are very knowledgeable about what it is that you want to get into, so that when you're talking from a point of authority, and then people listen to you. But if you're talking to people, it doesn't mean you're going to have to learn from people. But if you don't have that knowledge firsthand, people are going to tell you what you don't want to hear, and it will be very easy to discourage you from even doing that business. And then you have to have a thick skin for this climb. You need to have a thick skin.
Have you ever met a client that's almost like, okay, you got fed up or something?
Yeah, of course. You would find people who
would
are
you like
difficult.
to share?
Well, you would find people who are difficult to deal with, but you just need to be patient because, like they say, the customer is king, Even if you want to decide that, I'm never going to work with this person again, but just make sure you get that thing over the line. Make sure the customer is happy with whatever it is. You may decide not to take their business anymore. But, having to deal with different types of customer, you need to be patient to deal with people.
Talking about you, that you are dealing with cultural materials tradition. Have you ever met a customer that maybe influence made him come, he or she come to you? Not that the person likes tradition and that kind of attitude.
Yeah, people will come and say, "Oh, is it not just Ashoke? Is it not just this?" And they're like, "There's nothing just." Somebody sat for hours to weave that fabric. Somebody sat for hours to design that fabric and then make the product. So it's not just, nothing is just, especially when it's handmade. I remember a year I went to South Africa and I took some of the things that I've done and I'd made some samples and I just wanted to test markets with them. And I sold them for less than the price that I would normally sell them for. And, the person I was selling to is a designer, is a friend as well. And he was like, "Tunde, how are you able to make margin off this price that you're selling it? I'm buying two. Let me buy first, know that I've owned mine, and then I'll talk to you about this." And I said, "No, I understand what you mean. I know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to see how people receive it." And he was like, "This is amazing, and you shouldn't be selling them at this price." I'm like, "I know." But not everybody has got that mindset, but he understands because he's also a designer and he produces. So you'll find people who come and tell you, they'll rubbish what you're doing. And you'll find people who will come and say, "Wow, you're doing a great job." So there's always going to be two sides. It's for you to, again, have the thick skin, so that when the good one comes, you smile. When the not so good one comes, you still smile. And you know that person is only there for a couple of minutes and then they'll be gone.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. But before we go, one last question. I would like you to answer this question within 60 seconds on the camera. So in 60 seconds, tell us why African culture is not just heritage, but is a business opportunity.
Wow. So African culture is not just heritage, like I said, because if you look at it, the Western people are kind of appropriating our culture and they're taking a lot of inspiration from us. So why are we not making our own culture, our own business? Let's tell our own stories to the world and make money out of it. From our movies to our fabric, to our fashion, to the design. It's a business. It's not just something that goes into the museum. So yes, let's take advantage of our culture, tell our stories to the world and make a business out of it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. And we didn't go to the path of where you sculpt. One day, maybe I'm going to make a call. I'm waiting to make a lot of money first, so I can call you, Mr. Tunde, and say, "Please sculpt. I want you to sculpt my face."
I'll gladly do.
Thank you so much for coming on this episode of Your Business, My Business. I would say it is an honor speaking with you.
Thank you very
the
much.
fact that you're very, very knowledgeable and the fact that you're creative. I've seen a lot of work that you do and I'm like, wow. The one, we're going. I saw those ones. There's one other one I saw. Something, a sculpture, little story you made. And the one I still saw today about the African threading styles, you are doing a great job. Not everyone will actually think that far. So people are thinking about it, but to actually do it, to put in the work is actually not, they don't have the courage to do so. So you started creating, you thought about it, you created it, you sat down to say, let me do this thing. Not everyone will be able to do that. So I'm saying from the bottom of my heart, we at Rapid TV, we're appreciating you for the good things you're doing in the industry. Not everyone would actually want to do that. And that is it on this episode of Your Business, My Business. You've listened. I know you've learned the story of courage, resilience, a creative spirit being brought to life, and the story of culture, our culture being preserved in different things like leatherworks and all. This is on Your Business, My Business. And stay tuned, do not go away, because we're coming back on Rapid TV to give you more exciting programs. And this is Faith Oyewole telling you bye.